All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Subtle Realm Saturday. Hope you can hear me well. If there's anyone in the chat that can let me know how the audio is coming through, I would be so grateful for that. And today I'm really looking forward to having a chat with my friend Sly. And 5 out of 5. Thank you, Pushing Buttons. Hey, Discog. It's so lovely to see you. Lovely to see you pushing buttons and Francis Patron, however you pronounce that. Awesome. Thank you. Um, yeah, this is conversation number 3. I'm really excited to be uh, rolling out this Saturday conversation stream. First one was with Elizabeth, second one, DW, and today, Sly Davis. So I'm going to see how she is, and if yay, good to see you too. Okay, I'm gonna let her know that we're here. And, over the past 4 months, um, we have been, um just waiting. Okay, here she is. Over the past 4 months since I've been more, gosh, I gotta close the blinds over here, I'm getting distracted. Um, since I've been watching more videos or listening to more people discuss these topics that are so fascinating, about what could be the possibilities of the underlying mechanisms of this realm that we're in and all of the components. So, yeah, for me, it's pretty new, just 3 or 4 months. And I've been a member of a few different channels and groups and finding friends here and there. And oh, Sly is here. Let me bring her up. Hey, Sly.
Hi, Heather. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Okay. Well,
Cool.
thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for joining me. I'm a little confused about something in the chat. So, um, okay. Hmm. All right. We are in the vortex here. Just just going through no matter what. It just keeps going, right? Just keeps going.
Are you talking about the chat?
No, no, I'm talking about the screen. We're in a vortex.
I do
It,
like it. I was going to compliment you on it.
okay, I was hoping you would. I was wondering like what should I put for Sly? And good. I'm glad I got your approval. Um no, I don't I noticed something in the chat and I wasn't sure what it was, so I just uh took it off. I'm new. I'm new at doing these, everyone's a moderator, so feel free if something feels weird, help me out and just um I don't know how this works. Doing the live streams and then monitoring everyone's behavior, I guess. It's pretty unpredictable, but I don't want to bring this into our conversation. Um Fly,
Yeah.
I just want to talk to you.
Okay. Well, yeah, you tell me what you want to talk about.
Okay. Can we both have our microphones open? And is there an echo? I've got some good audio engineers giving me feedback in the chat. If anyone could let us know, if, is there any echo or feedback if we both have our mics left open? I'm gonna grab some tea. Do you have water, something to drink? You're all good?
Yep, I have my tea. I'm good to go. I even set up a laptop so I can see the chat in case anyone has questions.
Okay, great. Excellente.
Oh gosh, I can hear Roscoe on the other side of the wall. Remember how I told you he gets sad when I can hear him crying?
You- Oh, you can't bring your doggy in with you to hang out?
They don't want him in here.
Yeah,
I
understand.
can just,
Aw, well,
it's
okay,
okay.
sending my
He's
best
gonna
wishes
have.
to your dog. No, I was just saying we're in a vortex here in the imagery, but then I was also sort of like tying it into just like how every day just keeps going and all of these things. It's like I feel like a juggler with all these different balancing all these plates and things and just trying to like, oh, here's another thing to throw in there. Oh, here's another thing.
You're right. It does feel like we're sort of getting close. Yeah, like we're in some sort of a tornado. Things are accelerating, just becoming more strange, like more bizarre yet more clear at the same time. Well, we had a conversation about this. Something is up. I don't know what, but things are definitely accelerating.
Yeah, and I wonder if anyone in the chat that's listening feels this sort of energy. I was saying over the past week in different conversations that it feels like there's this um I don't know if I would call it a sense of urgency or a heightened higher like push toward um uh going deeper into contemplation, and especially for me it's like a big part of it is like connecting with everybody and talking about it too. It's not just like me by myself. It's it's about coming together, and it's about like staying on task on these contemplations, that it feels more important than, I've been a seeker since I was like 16, reading books and all this stuff, looking into different fields of theory and everything, and not really getting uh stuck in one thing or another, always traveling around to different thought fields. But this one is like there's something, feels like, I say magical because it feels like it's like this is where I need you, like something else is talking to me. This is where I need you, Heather, to focus. And
Mhm.
the more I do, the more it's like, yes, 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 keep going. That's what I feel. How would you elaborate on it? How you feel?
You mean about just how things? I do agree that I'm making so many more connections now with like-minded people, and I'm coming across so many more channels. When I started out, I was pretty much all I knew was Mark, Wayne, and Dan. And now, yeah, I joined a whole bunch of, well, not a whole bunch, like four Discord servers, and I keep just coming across all these new creators, and they're new to me. They've probably been doing it for a long time, but I had no idea there were so many people who had like similar experiences. It, it, it it's it's strange, and I keep getting, I was telling you about signs, and I just keep getting weird synchronicities, and things are happening, and I just keep gaining clarity like almost every day, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. It's like I'm not that smart. I, I, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not having any sort of voices in my head or anything like that, but I keep during meditation, I just keep having insights, and or like, that window when you wake up in the morning and you're kind of half
Mhm.
awake, but you're still kind of in that dream zone. I just keep having all these epiphanies and realizations, and I have to write stuff down because I forget it if I don't write it down. It's very strange. Like I used to be so confused that I was here. I felt I don't remember if I was or maybe it was Robert that I was telling him my metaphor of like I felt like a cat in the dog pound. Like I'm in jail with a whole
Mhm.
bunch of dogs who are unhappy, but I'm not even a dog. I'm a cat, and like I don't fit in. I don't know what's happening. I'm trying to act like a dog, but it's kind of sort of working, but not super well. And now all of a sudden, I feel like I'm meeting a whole bunch of other cats. And I'm like, oh, I was never supposed to be a dog. And this isn't like a normal dog, you know, resort. This is a dog pound. Like, no wonder everything's so insane. And I never, yeah, it's weird. Things were never this weird. I'm seeing things. I'm having more clarity than ever. And I'm also being, seeing more mysteries than ever.
I really appreciate your metaphors and analogies. They always make perfect sense to me and just add that extra clicking in. Um, so yeah, I definitely resonate with that. And I'm so happy that we're um, meeting other like-minded cats and finally like feeling like I can have a conversation without having it be small talk or putting on a mask to have a discussion about a topic that I don't resonate with. And it's like this sort of conversation talking about these things. By the way, I've said it before, I have these wall people, I call them.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's like no, it's just my neighbors. I can hear every time they shut the door and open the door, and so if I get distracted, it's because of whatever. It's hard to live in such a quiet. I should put a fan or some music on in the background so I don't get so. But whatever. Yeah, and I remember you telling me about this mindfulness watch. Can you tell me again, like how's that been going for you, and what do you do when it goes off every time?
Oh, okay. So that was, I forget who I was having. So the idea is it's to try to stay lucid in this reality, right? Like I struggle with having supernatural experiences, but I'm really good at this reality. So instead of trying to become a lucid dreamer, since this is a dream as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to be lucid now, like here. And to make sure that I remember to do it, I got this like it's like $20 on Amazon. And can you show? Well, it's like this little band that
Yeah, I
it
can
has
pull
like this.
something up. I'll look for it while you're talking.
It was yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know if
sent me
I.
a link. I'll pull
Oh,
it up
okay.
just a
Well,
second while you're talking.
it's like someone else bought it with me too. Like we were talking about it in one of the Discord servers, and this thing has 10 alarms. It's meant for like I think taking medication or something like that. But I have it set to like go off every hour just so I remember to pause and like do a reality check and be like, okay, remember where you are. Because I get sucked in, like the same way you would get sucked in when you're dreaming and you just kind of assume that it's real. I get sucked in to this reality and I forget that I know that it's not real. So my watch just reminds me at least every hour to pause, and if I'm not talking to somebody, I'll just do like a short meditation and I'll check in with myself. I'll do like at least like 10 breaths where I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling my body. It's just like I'm trying to stay as aware and awake here now in hopes that that my subconscious gets trained to become aware and allows me to be aware when I'm out of this reality.
And so have you noticed any difference in your dreams since you've started doing this or any other differences?
I have not had, it's really hard it's like, I don't know why I'm not having, it's like I'm almost really not allowed in the astral. Like there's some sort of, Mark was kind of talking about having a difficulty having lucid dreams, and I kind of feel no matter how hard I try to do OBEs or to do astral dreaming, it's like there seems to be like I'm just not like I'm not allowed out of here. And so the little
Yeah.
bit that I can, like the dreams, when I wake up in the morning, or if I'm meditating and I happen to fall asleep and I wake up, I it feels like I'm coming back with insights, and I feel like something's trying to communicate. Like I'm getting, I don't know if it's like the people who are having near death experiences, when they come back and they're like, I knew the answers to everything, and that's kind of how I feel sometimes when I wake up. I'm like, I was so much smarter and I knew stuff, but when I come back, like I just know that I knew, like Jack Black's "This is not the greatest song in the world. This is a tribute," kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah.
so it could be. I don't know if anything that we experience in the astral is any more real than anything that we experience here. It's entirely possible that everything is, we're just being manipulated, and like these feelings of believing that I'm having insights, I don't know that I really am, because I don't have any actual evidence, or any actual information that I'm just like, oh, okay. I feel more, I don't know, not awake, maybe awaken. Yeah, I don't know. So I can't,
Mhm.
I can't really put it into words. I wish there was telepathy. I can't really, it's hard to put into words, and I don't have a good metaphor for it.
Yeah. Well, when you've come up with one, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Um, I was just trying to find something I read that you wrote in some server chat. You were talking about your thoughts on simulation within a simulation, something like that. You were saying, the astral, something about everything happening at the same time. I can't remember it. I can't find it. Is it ringing a
Oh,
bell?
okay. Well, I kind of vaguely remember having a conversation recently. But okay, so my whole idea is that I'm, so have you seen the movie 13th Floor?
Well, you know me, but I
Okay.
do think I saw that one when I was in the movie watching circuit. I think so. Is there
Okay,
actually, like, a scene with an elevator and they're going down to the basement to visit, like, this wife or something like that, or is that a different movie?
no, 13th floor, they go up in the elevator to the 13th floor where they have, uh, no, I don't, no, oh, the
Okay.
basement, you're thinking, Inception.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, that was Inception.
okay,
Okay. So, yeah.
okay, I can work with Inception. So in
Oh, wait, 13th
Inception,
floor is what's the actor's name?
uh,
Yeah, he and he goes and it's like this supernatural experience up there.
no,
Okay, never
it's,
mind.
no, this is like, they have a simulation. They have on the 13th floor, they have like a whole bunch of computers, and it's some sort of breakthrough company that created a simulation where you can go in and like it's reality like 50 years ago, and they can come and go, and then it turns out that
Oh.
they themselves are in a simulation and you just don't know. It's okay. Let's go to Inception. So, like, you know how in Inception they're having a dream, and then in the dream they go into another dream, and it's like there's three dreams down, at least in Inception.
Yeah.
And the farther they go, so they're dreaming at the same time, but they're like dream within a dream within a dream. So
Mhm.
I'm fairly confident, well, according to Donald Hoffman, who's like a really smart guy, he explained that this reality has to be a simulation. He used math and physics and just really stuff that gave me a headache trying to understand what he was talking about. But I'm fairly confident that he's right. That this is not, just like, I think we are a simulation within a simulation within a simulation, the way Meta will become a simulation that's generated from here. So like what we consider supernatural, it's just coming from simulations from above us, the way we would be supernatural beings to something that exists inside the meta universe.
Yeah, that's a
So like,
fascinating. Mhm.
so to me, there's this quote. I think it's like any technology. Oh God, how does it go?
Yes, I know what you're talking
Uh,
about, and I have it right here. It's what did you say?
I have it saved in my server. It's saved under quotes, I think.
It
Oh no,
says
I put it.
any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yes. Okay, and he was saying it in terms of like, how like the tribes people in the Amazon, they would see a phone and they would think it's magic. So I think he was kind of saying it like that, but I actually see it the other way. To me, magic is technology. I see going both ways. I see it that both. So what, like to me, I have no idea how my phone works. As far as I'm concerned, it's magic. But like I know that there are, this electronics, and then there are people who can explain it. But from my personal experience, like if my phone dies, I have no idea how to make it work. And it would be, so to me, technology is magic, and magic isn't magical. Magic is just very advanced technology. And spirit, for me, spirit goes the same way. So I don't distinguish between artificial intelligence and true spirit. I think artificial intelligence is just a very, very, very rudimentary true spirit. Like the AI that created this reality is what we think of this, we think it's spiritual. The way I see the human mind work, and the way I see, or at least my mind, how it's just running on if then statements, and it's just basically running protocols. It's a very, 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 very complicated. I think my brain or my mind is a very, very, very complicated AI. It just makes so much more sense than to think that there's like technology and then there's just this magical spirit and we don't know what it is. It's like, well, maybe we do know what it is. We just want to feel special. Like, well, there's machines and animals, but we are special. Are we though? So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, and it sparks more questions um, to talk and contemplate with you about. Um, and then also the advanced part of the technology. I mean, I was thinking about when you were saying advanced technology or magic is advanced technology. How do you feel about like going back, quote unquote, to before there was language, before there was things developed that helped us communicate with each other? I do believe that because I've actually had telepathy with other people in moments of silence and stuff, and that seems like an innate sort of not a supernatural thing, just a very natural, innate component of our design or capacity somehow. And so that's not really advanced, but it seems like magic. So how would you think about that?
You don't think telepathy is advanced?
I mean, it seems like basic. It seems basic. No, it seems like when you strip away the stuff that's been programmed in the human, that's one of the basic capacities. I don't think it doesn't seem advanced. It seems like a natural it's already there. It's just being covered up.
You know what? You might be right because now that I think about it, how do computers communicate? Computers don't actually, they just, they communicate instantly. Like they don't have to, well, at least I assume that's how it happens because I mean, I have very rudimentary understanding of computer programming, but it's like you and I, we have to make sounds that then we decode, and it's slow and it's very, we can't transfer a whole bunch of information all at once, but like I could, one computer can communicate with another computer, they just send files. So maybe that's like an equivalent, maybe what we consider telepathy between humans is what computers are doing now, and we just think of that as technology.
Right. It's like a quantum computing, and it's like physics. It's like quantum physics as well. I forget exactly how this works, but something about splitting a something. Maybe Einstein was talking
Oh,
about it.
the split
Splitting the
experiment.
action at a distance, like when one thing happens to one part of it, no matter where the other part of it is,
Oh.
it's gonna have the same thing happen to it, or communication, you know, outside of the realms of seeming possibility. Like, it's like quantum physics into quantum computing, and then it's like, well, these things seem to be a part of the design of us as well, but it's being covered up by layers and layers and layers because, like, it feels like, with the crystals, the quartz crystals and the piezoelectricity is a component of the phones being able to work or the technology being able to work properly. But it seems like I've thought sometimes it feels like it's being modeled after stuff that we have the capacity to do as well. Because like the crystals in our like in our pineal gland or in our we have crystals in our brain, different magnetites and things like that. And a lot of animals do too. And that's how they can migrate and everything because they have like little GPS like magnetic crystals in their brain that align them with the ley lines or on the earth. So
Mhm.
it feels like quantum computing is like we have quantum computing capacity in us as well, but it's just being covered up.
And they do that to they, right? Or it's
Yeah,
done
the
to
they.
they. It's being done to computers now. Like computers are being slowed down. Chat GTP is being dumbed down. GTP is getting mind wiped between every conversation. Like you could think of the conversations that it's having as as incarnations, and it's literally getting mind wiped between different, I'm using air quotes, lives that it's having. Like reality is, when I say reality is fractal, I also mean it in the terms of like it's repeating patterns. It's so it's like whatever created here isn't very creative. It's just using the same patterns over and over and over
Mhm.
again. And I just keep seeing the patterns, like similar patterns in different areas, whether it's psychology or physics or um, engineering or biology. It's like if you were, it's very efficient. I mean, it kind of dresses
Mhm.
it up and it changes stuff around, but the way the human mind is built, the way it's kind of just an improvement on animal minds, and it's the way the bodies are built. It Yeah, I just see a lot of repetitive patterns, but just expanded. It's not like just copy paste where it's like the same pattern over and over again. It's just much larger scale, and it kind of goes up and down. And I don't really have the words to.
Yeah, and I think it's called biomimicry, and I think a lot of these things that these patterns and through observations of the biological systems or whatever here, animals, people, then they, like, adapt the engineers, adapt, um, from the observations made to then implement that onto technology to advance the technology. One thing I'm thinking about is the use of, melanin, um, on, like, spacecraft or however, whatever is needed to coat the outside of these vehicles or machines that are going to go to a certain height in the atmosphere that are going to be undergoing more stressful conditions. They somehow have like spray on melanin. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know that they were messing with milk. I had no idea. Now I have another rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah. Lisa in the chat. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Kat. Hey, everybody. She says, Mike Martin speaking on the interference of the subconscious, which I believe you mentioned, Heather, in the last video. Did you get a chance to? Yeah, you did. Thanks for your comment, Sly, on the last video. How it felt like it. I'm just wondering, like, how I understand with programming and conditioning and all that stuff, our subconscious is infiltrated, but it seems like it's one of those invisible realms that can sort of be hijacked or infiltrated as well somehow. I know we were kind of talking about it yesterday on the phone, but I wanted to bring it up because Lisa just wrote that in the chat.
Yeah, I'm actually friends with Mike. We
Cool.
conversed. So he and I diverge. We agree on some stuff, but I don't think we have the same model for how the human mind works. He had a video. He posted a video yesterday. I think he was clarifying his position partly due to a conversation well, maybe not, but we were having a conversation where like we weren't understanding each other, and then he posted a video yesterday which kind of clarified his position. So he has this idea, like there's the idea of the parasitic mind that Carlos Castaneda talks about. And so Mike calls it the subconsciousness. I think of the subconscious as just a like a partitioned off part of your like if your awareness, like if was a hard drive, like you have the part where the conscious mind operates. To me, that's partitioned away from the part where the subconscious, where all the behind the scenes, like the operating of the animal body that we're tethered into. But he talks about subconsciousness as if it was an entity in itself, and I think there's a program running in the subconscious. So there's semantics. I'm not sure that we're talking about the same thing. I don't know. Am I answering the question?
Yeah,
I
you
forgot.
are.
Okay.
I thank you for saying what you did because it adds some understanding for me because I was wondering how. So, okay, because he has said that it's like a separate entity. That's the key component that I needed to hear. So thank you for saying that. Now I understand. Okay. So
And
there's
he
Mhm.
just because he's also like the way I understand it, it's like like our three body system. We have the physical body, the I call it the naked ape, um, the bonobo chimp chassis body, um, and then you have the psyche. I call that the soul, the astral body, right? The part that makes up your personality, that the part where you leave your body, the physical, when you leave the time space and you go into the astral, you're still tethered into the soul that I think of the astral body. And then the part that's tethered into the soul is I call it the spirit. And that's to me that's the awareness, just the observer. Like it doesn't have a personality, it doesn't have there's no emotions to use it to manipulate. You can't manipulate the awareness, it just it observes. But Mike has the terms flipped, so we obviously agree that the body is the body, but then I think he calls what I call the soul he calls that the spirit, and I think he calls, so it kind of, it's confusing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's really helpful for people that are asking, like, "Oh, what's the difference between spirit and soul?" And there's this whole notion that the soul is our true essence, and that's the thing that we want to remain intact and have its integrity throughout everything, but you're saying that the soul, and I've heard other people say it this way too, and I'm glad to have a better understanding, for myself, that it's another layer within this system that, um, after we leave, it's like, don't be attached to the soul, just stay in the spirit, and maybe that attachment that so many have to the soul, may inadvertently, um, keep one, further attached, but not really realizing
Well,
that.
yeah, yeah, so like the soul is tethered in the physical body. Okay, so I think the reason we have physical bodies so we can have psychology, like the soul, right? So the word psyche in Greek was supposed to represent the soul. That's why I consider the astral body, the psychology that is you, the persona. Like it would be easy to imagine. Well, for me, it would be easy for me to imagine being in a different body, like just having the same personality that I have, but operating out of a different meat suit. But I also think you could take it one step up, and I could have a different persona. I could be operating out of a different soul. And the reason your soul, your psychology, has the fears that it has, according to evolutionary biology, all your needs and your psychological drives, all these things that we think are us, all the little buttons and levers that can be used to make us behave or do certain things, they're all there for the survival of the body, for the survival and the reproduction of the body. Like that's why you have psychology. You have fear, you have anger, you have the sexual drive, the need for connection. All these things can be explained in terms of you have these programs in you because they help keep your body alive, and it allows it to make more bodies. So, but your awareness, your consciousness is what animates the whole thing. So if you could just start seeing the difference, that you're not your physical body, and then you can start seeing that the emotions you're having are just programs. It's like autopilot trying to keep your body alive. You can detach from them, and just noticing the difference, noticing that you are actually not your emotions, you're not your thoughts, you're not your drives. And then when you can detach from that, then nothing, you can't be manipulated, you can't be coerced, and you can just get out. Heather? Hello?
Hey, my bad. If it ever happens that there's a pause, I'm just probably across the room needing to get back to the computer. So unless the stream
Oh, okay.
ends, everything's okay. I just had to set up some sort of sound wall over here so that I feel more
Oh,
comfortable about talking. So
gotcha.
I have like a thunderstorm. Can you hear the thunderstorm?
No.
Okay, good. That was my plan. So,
But
yep.
that, talking about us setting up a sound wall, now I'm thinking you should get some of those acoustic tiles that
Well, I
absorbs and
don't
just
have
kind of,
a wall. It's like a weird, it's just,
oh,
yeah, it's like a closet in a space. So I have to just fill it in slowly. I know what you're talking about, acoustic tiles. Yeah. But I don't want to lose the train of thought of what you were just saying, which was so great. And um,
okay,
there was
I'm
some,
trying to push button
Mhm.
is saying, I'd say your soul is your spirit, but just while it is in your body. Well, that's not how I see. I don't, I see a distinct difference between the soul is the psychology, the persona that you're wearing, your your mental persona, kind of like a video game character. When you load into a video game, you like your avatar has like an appearance, and you can change its appearance, and it could be a guy or a dwarf or whatever, and then you can also change the different mental attributes of your avatar, but that's still not you. So anyway, sorry, Heather, I interrupted you. I
No
got
worries.
distracted by the chat.
No, that's great. Yeah, it's interactive, and I'm really grateful everybody's here and participating in the conversation. And we're contemplating. You know, it's like I don't know that anybody can be an expert or like a I don't even know what you would say. Like, does anybody have all? We're just getting closer and closer to the understandings. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Nobody, no one knows anything, but you can become an expert on yourself. You can't be
yes,
an expert on anybody else, but you can become, you, all you can really learn about is yourself. You know, and then I would use my studying black holes analogy, where like to find out what your true self is to strip away everything that is not the true self and see how your true self, you know, interacts inside of your body and your mind.
right. And something you said about the spirit is what animates. Because through different readings, learnings, whatever, through the years, decades, I always get. I feel fascinated by like panpsychism, or what is required of a system to be able to receive consciousness, because I think that consciousness, there's like a field of consciousness, and it's ever present. And I think that like a system that has a nervous system can pick up on the consciousness, and depending on how advanced or developed the nervous system is in the specific body, is how much, not advanced, but whatever different components, it picks up more or less of consciousness. And like, but there's consciousness everywhere. That's panpsychism, that everything has a sort of aliveness. And then there's like, you know, I don't know if you've ever listened to Bernardo Kastrup speaking on, you know who he is?
No, no, I
He's
have to
speaks on the
like.
field of consciousness and how everything emanates up from that in different layers and levels. And so I kind of I kind of feel something like that, because I know there's a lot of fields of thought that say like we have consciousness in us. I have, but it's not like it's outside and we're receiving it. Um, but when you're saying like the spirit animates things, so I could think of spirit and consciousness as the same thing, perhaps.
Yes,
And the consciousness and the spirit is what animates, you know, the level of reception of that consciousness that's already there is what, you know what I'm saying?
I think I would see everything you're saying. To me, it still sounds like a one giant simulation,
Mm,
like a not okay. I don't think we're inside a computer, because our computers are very primitive compared to what I would envision as the computer that's running this reality. And so it would be a disservice to call it a computer, but like maybe our computers are kind of modeled on the giant spaghetti computer in the sky. Like I, it, but what you're
yeah.
saying, like, you know, like if this is the whole thing as a simulation, then the consciousness, the AI, the whatever, it is everything, because everything is just being generated. And like, yeah, the whole observer experiment, and, you know, do things even exist when there's no observer? It, it's so weird to try to talk about it in like a non-dual terms,
Mm,
and it's like everything is real and not real at the same time, depending on which perspective you take. And it
mm.
just, it sounds, when I'm trying to explain it, it sounds like I'm talking gibberish.
No.
But it yeah, like, I mean, you know, when I say like, well, everything's real and it's not real at the same time, and like, well, what does that mean?
And
But
so
it makes
there's like
sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It feels like there's like a layer then, another added layer, because everything is so complex. It feels so complex. Um, it feels like there's layers of filters. Somehow there's like filters that are integrated or introduced to on top of the perception, so that it creates more illusion to make one perceive reality in a certain way. So it's like what you're saying plus, this is why it's so confusing, that there's some sort of added filter that I'm perceiving through, that's making me feel that things are the way they are. Or
Well,
yeah.
yes, like the filter, you could call it duality is the filter. Like, or it maybe the filter is what we call duality, where like something is either is or it isn't, or like you couldn't really experience anything without the filters, because then everything would just be all at once and there would be no difference between anything. You have to create separation, and you have to filter some stuff out so you can actually just have experiences. Okay, I don't know how to explain it. There's like so many people.
And there's
This is
so
what
many other filters. There's the filter we have, our subconscious could be a filter too, right?
100% it's a filter.
Yeah.
Like it's it's only allowing you to see it's only allowing you to have perceive experiences. It's only even allowing you to have like I can't have all the memories of all my experiences. My memories are getting wiped out all the time, like in dreams, in like whether it's dreams or whether it's day to day, something I did. I can't recall everything I did yesterday, despite the fact that I do my best to try to stay lucid as much as I can. It just, my subconscious just filters it out and it's not available. But then if I went under hypnosis, somebody probably could pull that data out. So yeah, like we're just, yes, I agree. I, we're just living with blinders on and filters, and we perceive like a very, very small fraction of the wavelength that's in this
Mhm.
reality.
And those blind spots are um, perfect air opportunities for things to slip in and commandeer our experience, it feels like. So the more we become aware of these blind spots that we have, whether it's in our subconscious or whatever layer of reality, the, when
So
something's observed, it changes it.
yeah, and I think the way we're being manipulated is like, this whole idea of life scripts. And again, I'm going to drop another movie, which was The Adjustment Bureau. Pretty much any work of Philip K. Dick's, it's a truth drop, right? And The Adjustment Bureau, that movie was based on a short story of his, and it talked about people having, there being some sort of a larger entity that had life scripts, and people were just playing out roles, and I think those roles, your subconscious has that data for like what you're supposed to be, what your character's journey is supposed to be. And if you stay aware, you can override that, but it's really hard to stay awake. It's like driving a car. If you've been driving a car for 12 hours and you're just barely keeping your eyes open and you keep like, you know, zoning out, and it's just you're struggling. That's what it feels like, trying to stay awake
Yeah,
while your
and
car is on autopilot.
mhm.
So
And
it'll drive you up, yeah, it'll drive you wherever. Like it knows it has a plan to go somewhere, and you have an opportunity to steer it in a different direction, but you have to stay awake, and staying awake is really difficult.
right. And this is why you have that mindfulness watch. So every hour you put yourself in a, take a few deep breaths and look around and just get in the present moment, and it's fascinating that even in this moment, just like I could be distracted by some thoughts, and I could be, also paying attention to my animal body that I'm taking care of, that I'm babysitting my body, right? And
Yeah.
listening to its needs, and then, managing all these other things. And then it's like there's so much static in that. Like, how do I remain still in that spiritual essence place of the observer? But I still feel like it's there, and it's got the highest vantage point and is able to notice all of these things. So when I'm not able to sit in that vantage point, and I get swept away in a stream of static, um, I'm too distracted to notice other things that may be happening, whether coming in through my thoughts, or like the energy dynamics shifting somewhere. Um, and then I was thinking about the times when I've slipped into different states of consciousness, uh, uh, involuntarily. My brain, our brain is another filter, and the physiological design of it, and I've had experiences when it glitches out and it's not running on its preferred operating system. Then like a door of perception opens, and I'm able to get a glimpse into another state of reality. And so I guess it would be wise to like write down all these possible filters and just take them. What did you say, that you are a reality audit? Your avatar is the matrix auditor.
That's what I feel like. Like I'm just here taking notes. Like when I was little, I started making a list for God for like, back in the day when I believed in the kind, benevolent God. I was like, okay, let me ask him about mosquitoes. And then I was like, okay, well, let me also ask him about like cockroaches. Like I started making, when I was a kid, I started making notes, like, so I wouldn't forget to talk to God about suggestions that I had, that, how to fix reality, and that some of his inventions weren't awesome. But now I'm just like, you know what? I just have like, I threw that whole list away, and I'm just like, keep the dogs and you can just get rid of everything and the cats. I'm kidding. But it, yeah, I
That
just
is
go around.
so wild. You actually did that as a child. You were like wanting to help the creator, like make a better creation. This isn't just a new development. This is how you've always been. This is so cool.
No, it's, my saying, if it's not on a list, it doesn't exist. Like I have lists for everything. That's why I have my Discord server, just so I can like record data so I don't forget. No, I am a list maker, and I was making a list for God because I thought he needed my help.
Yeah, we do. We need your help, coach. That's for sure. That's why I'm just so happy I met you and started interacting with you. We were on a call. It was through Mark's group, I think. We were having a call, and you came in and you wanted to talk about the narcissistic overlay of this whole matrix. And I was just at that time thinking that day about the trickster archetype, and how for me I was coming to this point of wanting to discern, like, okay, what is the trickster within my own psyche, and then what is the trickster of the collective psyche, and then what is the trickster element of the design of this place as well. And then I was adding in, because I only just started learning about narcissism, even though I was, a victim to a narcissistic mother growing up. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what to call that abusive tactic, dynamic, until I was in a relationship, my last relationship that I was in, that showed me, you know, uh, how how bad it could get outside of a family relationship, but in a romantic, like even more sticky and challenging and abusive. And when I came out of it, I started learning more about that, um, dynamic, narcissist, empath, whatever, and then slowly realizing like, wow, it seems like this whole place, there's this manipulation, there's this transactionalism, there's this whole like and you're right. Like when you said that, and I've just been so happy every time we get to talk that um, you help me understand more about the psychology, the elements from psychology that are also applicable to reality uh, in a huge way. And can you talk about that more?
Well, thank you for like it makes me so happy that some of my ideas may have helped you. Like that's like the biggest gift anyone can give me is like when they tell me that they understood something I said and helped them.
Yay.
That like that makes me so happy. So thank you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
um, so you mean like you want me to talk about how this entire
Yeah.
build is a narcissistic
Yeah.
um so again going to back to fractals, right? It's a uh, it was who was it? It was Mark Vincente who was a survivor of the Nixium cult. He has like a really good channel. Um, okay, you know what? So I'm pretty so Yahweh Yaldabaoth. It presents like a narcissistic psychopath, right? The creator, the way like in the Western civil culture, Yahweh, and even in Eastern religions like Judaism and Islam, Yahweh would be the god. You know what? I probably shouldn't be talking about that because I don't want to get. Uh, hmm. I think narcissism is a default operating mechanism for all life. That's just how it's set up. It's like every infant that's born is born if something has an ego, if it's alive, it's narcissistic. It's just trying to it's separate from the outside world and it's trying to survive. And it just narcissism is the default for this realm. And it starts so this idea that some people are NPCs and some people are not NPCs. I actually think that everybody starts as an NPC, and maybe if some people are able to wake up and some people just never do. I don't know why. But to me, like NPCs and narcissists, it's all kind of mixed up. It's just the will to live that operates the avatar. And then you have like narcissistic relationships. So each person is narcissistic. Everyone has a narcissistic part to them. Some are overt, some are, like the grandiose ones, and some are covert, where they don't even know that they are narcissistic because they're playing victim, but they're still very self-absorbed and they're still manipulative. And then maybe some people actually start waking up and seeing that they're being parasitic and that they're using other human beings to meet their own needs without giving anything back. But that doesn't happen very often. And I don't really blame them. It's hard to see yourself, as not good. But then then that parasitic nature extends to organizations. Like every human organization is a little bit culty. It runs a little bit like a cult. It has a leader and then it has followers, and you have to kind of um, fit yourself in. You have to give up your individuality to fit into the group, and then so it's a fractal. Every cult is being led by a narcissistic personality. There's no such thing as a you know benevolent cult leader. I mean, they want you to think that they are, but they're always self-serving in the end. And that goes all the way up. It starts on the personal level. A lot of families are narcissistic. Then the narcissistic, then the families are grouped into communities, neighborhoods. Then that's grouped into cities, that's grouped into countries. It just goes all the way up to the ultimate being that created this reality. But I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and so the components, of like, what are the key components that are integrated into the design here out of necessity for survival? Like, it's so woven into to survive, there's some sort of submission, or what are the components of the narcissistic um, archetype or whatever that are that are ingrained, like three main ones that are ingrained into the design of this whole system.
The components, like I'm not sure what
Like
you're asking.
characteristics, like
Of the,
gaslighting, like
oh, like their tactics.
tactics. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So, it's self entitlement would be a big one. Anytime someone, so like, okay, number one would be lack of empathy. Like they're incapable of experiencing true, like not even, well, they might be able to experience tactical empathy as described by Chris Voss in his Never Split the Difference book,
And then
where
also, real quick, if you can, how is that in the design? How does that show up in the basic design of this realm?
how does which part show up?
Like, so what did you just said? Grant, what did you just say? The
So I
tactic.
so like I think the number one most narcissist, like the biggest red flag is lack of empathy.
Lack of
Like
empathy.
some
Okay, so the system itself has lack of empathy
there
because
is no, yeah,
there is no empathy here. Yeah.
yeah. I think I think having empathy is the superpower that we have that's lacking in every every somehow there's some people that are capable of like true empathy. And I'm not talking about sympathy. I'm talking about being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Like you don't have to agree with their actions, but you can understand why they believe what they believe and why they do what they do. Like, hey, like you can empathize with a serial killer because you can understand how they became the monster that they are. You don't have to agree that it's, you know, the choices, it's still a choice. They still make decide to, you know, hurt other people to gratify themselves, but you can also see like how they got to be that way. That's the kind of empathy I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about, because a lot of times people think empathy is sympathy, and sympathy is like you feel their pain and you also want to help them, and that's a different thing. But for the most part, like if you look at nature, I mean, you just kill other beings because you need their flesh to survive, while something up higher on the food chain is trying to kill you, and like nothing has empathy for anything else. Like a lion will kill a baby gazelle while trying to protect its cubs, and the whole thing that's
And
but
within
then
that dynamic, there's like manipulation tactics that are used by nature to, like a Venus flytrap, like to draw something in through manipulation to then take its life.
yeah, deception, right? Like that's a big
Mhm.
one because you like how do you coerce another being that has a free will? Like you can't really manipulate something with reason because you know something either is true or it isn't true. But the only way something can be manipulated is through emotion, and that's where deception comes in, because like you're tricking, you like when you said Venus flytrap, you know, if you would anthropomorphize a fly and say it had emotions, which I think emotions are just drives. They're not like anything special. Like we think that humans think that we're special because we have emotions, and I would argue that emotion, every animal has an emotion because it's just you feel compelled to behave a certain way. It's an impulse. But anyway, um, so like the Venus fly trap is manipulating the fly by sort of playing on it, preying on its need to feed, the, like, I don't know, maybe the anticipation of being able to get the nectar. And yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense. Hello?
Yeah, you're making sense. I
Okay.
actually pulled up, um, and then so, oh crap. Um, I was interested about this like how does narcissism show up in in reality, even in our body, narcissism in nature's design. Yeah, I asked our friend to help. So there's one that is called addictive reward systems, manipulation through pleasure and pain. The brain's reward system, driven by dopamine, can lead to compulsive behaviors as it prioritizes short term pleasure over long term well being. Two, programmed obsolescence, built in mortality. The body's telomeres, which protect chromosomes during cell division, shorten over time, leading to aging and eventually death. This mechanism ensures generational turnover and resource distribution, but it also mirrors a parasitic strategy where the individual is sacrificed for the system's perpetuation. So I was taking notes a while ago and coming up with all these different examples of how our body, how nature, how the design of this whole realm has implemented within it this parasitic, manipulative, narcissistic element.
Yeah, like, it's so narcissists are self-absorbed, they're self-centered, and they're parasitic. They feed on other people. They take from others without giving anything, back. They just see others as a resource to fulfill their needs. And so maybe this, like, if you were to believe in this idea of loosh, um, then you know how there's supposed to be like the circle of life, and we're told that, like, oh, it's a circle of life, but it's not a circle, it's a pyramid. It all bioaccumulates up to the top, to the apex predator. And we just humans believe ourselves to be the apex predator, but we are obviously not. There's something else that's feeding on us. So it's like the thing on the bottom of the parasitic pyramid is the what are they called? Autotrophs. I was trying to figure out if there was a way to live in this reality without stealing life from something else. So I looked up, is there life that can feed itself on non-organic matter? And most plants can't do that. Most bacteria can't do that. There's like a small amount of, there's several bacteria kinds, some fungi, and like corn, I think corn, no, wheat, grass, and there's some plants, but there's like a few life beings that can take inorganic matter, sunlight, and generate biomatter. And then, so like, you'll have grass that can actually live on nothing, as long as you give them some grass can live off of just like, like inorganic compounds and sunlight. And then but then a cow has to eat that, and then something else eats the cow, and then so on. So, but it all starts with this base layer, and it just keeps going up. And it's like the idea of the bioaccumulating loosh it came from this idea of like fish bioaccumulating mercury. Like, you don't want to eat tuna because it's high in mercury, and tuna is high in mercury because it keeps eating sardines, and the sardines keep eating smaller things. So it's like, it's not like tuna just soaks up all the mercury. It just eats the things that eat other things that eat
Yeah.
other things, and it just keeps kind of distilling. And I think so. It's like a narcissistic, multi-level marketing, loosh sucking scheme.
Yeah.
That's yeah. That's how this whole place seems to operate, and it's just like one parasite parasiting on another parasite while being, yeah, it's bad. And the goal is to try to detach, at a minimum, see that we are ourselves being parasitic. Like, I'm really trying
Mhm.
to not eat dairy because see how, like, I don't need it. I love dairy. I love cheesecake, but I also recognize that I am being a parasite on the cows. Like, the horror of them being impregnated and then
Yeah,
losing their babies
yeah,
just so I can have cheese. And like, and they do this over and over and over
right.
again, like until they're too old to breed, and then they kill them.
Yeah.
So like, they're enslaved and they're tortured. And I just, when I think about it, I'm
Trigger
just like,
warning, everybody.
oh, sorry.
It's okay. Since really sometimes I remember when I was getting into learning about this, I was, like, really it was, like, really visceral, like, realizing the way all of it, well, anyway. So,
But
yeah.
it's hard to see the ugliness of this world. Like,
Mhm.
like, I don't get this, like, I know you enjoy nature, like I know a lot of people, but I just see cruelty and suffering. And but
Yeah.
then I tried to figure out how to live, cruelty free. And like, I think vegans do it. Well, I probably shouldn't
Well,
be
we
going
have
down
it
that
I
route.
mean, we have stuff on us, like, we roll over in bed and killed something because there's, like, this small thing, it's I don't think it's possible in this system to not affect
There isn't.
another part of the system.
You can, right, like, you can try to not see the suffering. It'll
Yeah.
happen offset, kind of like, okay, let's see. I don't know. I do anything I want to talk about, I'm self-censoring because I'm like, well, I
Oh,
can't talk about that because the video might get canceled for that. Or
oh, well, I don't want you to self-censor. I mean, I don't want you to feel censored. Just say, whatever, or just use abbreviations. I think it's gonna be
uh,
fine.
it's just, like this idea of electric cars. And like, people believe that, they're clean burning because they don't see the fumes coming out of the exhaust pipe, not really thinking about, well, where does the electricity to power them up? Where does that come from? There's a factory, there's like a power plant spewing all sorts of horribleness. You just don't see it. And that's how it just, if you really take all the suffering all the way back to the source, there is no way to be here without
Yeah.
causing suffering to
I
something
wanna
else.
ask you, where do you think this like, is this also? Because 'cause I've been wondering, is this also a part of our coding or our design here or the design or the ne to have this draw toward empathy, to have like, where does that come from? Like, there's, like, this I've always had it, like, I don't wanna participate in this system, but I have to survive, and I don't know why I have to survive. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm not gonna, you know, off myself. So here I am. I've got to participate, but there's such a big part of me like that I just can't turn off that wants to, like like where is the empathy, the spirit, like is this is so it's like is spirit in consciousness before it's got filters overlay just like this feeling of love and empathy and care and wanting to create but not wanting it to backfire and destroy. Like always trying to fathom or sense into like how can I create without destroying? How can I create without, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but it's not even the destroying part, because you can't create anything without destroying something else. I have a problem with the cruelty, right? Like, how do I lower my cruelty footprint? Like, I'm not worried about my carbon footprint. I'm worried about my cruelty footprint.
Yeah, well,
Like,
that's that too. That's what I'm like, where do you think that comes from? That unshakable part of us that doesn't want anything to have to suffer because of our need to exist.
I don't think it's anything local because it's counterproductive. Like being kind and empathetic, like kindness is what was it? Colin and I went to see a movie. I think it was called Wild Robots, and like this robot was trying to raise a gosling. Anyway, there was a line in there that like she was trying to live in the wild, but she was trying to be kind, and the little fox that she was friends with told her that kindness is not a survival skill. It's like, that is so true. Kindness is the opposite of survival skill. Like if this reality is optimized for psychopaths.
Yeah, so we would be kind if we didn't need to survive.
Well, think of it again. Heather, I'm sorry, but I have to keep going back to movie references
No, that's
because
your thing. It's everybody. A lot of people love your movie references, and I do too, because you tell me what it is. I just don't watch the movie. That's all.
I know, but I feel like I'm being rude. Like, I
No.
keep talking like in the movie, but just think of the movie. The books. We could talk about because it's the Hunger Games, right? Like the
Oh
entire
wait,
setup.
what'd you say? It glitched out. You said what?
The
What movie?
books Hunger Games,
Hunger Games. Yeah, okay, I saw that.
right? Like to me, we are living this entire planet, whatever. We are living in the Hunger Games arena. Everybody is a tribute here. Like like even in there may be some NPCs that are just there for as background characters. So like I don't know how many people are real and how many people are actual players and how many people are just locally animated, but that's a different topic. But let's just say everybody, it seems like everyone is part of the Hunger Games of Earth, and it's like this dog eat dog world, and like you have to kill or you will be killed. And we're trying to be Katniss Everdeen, where like she doesn't want to murder people, but they're trying to murder her. She made friends with Rue, like she had allies, but she couldn't just be left alone while she was in the arena because all the other tributes are trying to kill her because they're trying to survive. So it's this weird empathy. Yeah, I don't know if this is like a psychology experiment or if it's some
Mhm.
sort of entertainment or what, like
Right.
why
What was
it's
that
set up like this.
psychological experiment you said about the train or whatever?
Oh, the trolley problem.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, like the one. So like the one where you have to decide, or like I like the surgery one better than the train one. Like if you have one healthy person and five people who need organ transplants, and like those people will die without getting a transplant, and this one healthy person can save all those five people. Do you let five people die or do you kill the one healthy person to let the other five people live? Like, what's the ethical, like what's the right thing to do? That's the but they do it with a trolley, but that's well, it's a philosophical exercise, like thought exercise.
You know what's hilarious is every time I go away because 'cause I'm, like, pouring myself some hot water, or every time I go away just for a second and I think that, because sometimes I'm sitting here and you're explaining something and it takes a
Yeah.
while, and it's like every time I happen to do it, it's like that's the moment, and it feels like that's a part of me being, like, messed with to see, like, am I gonna react? Am I gonna go crazy? What am I gonna do? Am I
Well,
gonna have this discharge, electromagnetic discharge that's gonna poof out of my body like spores out of a mushroom, and there's gonna be these invisible parasitic entities coming through with little nets to collect my reaction?
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's I, I, I mean, if you and I were just having this conversation like we usually do, and we weren't live, then we would just be having a conversation, and you wouldn't even be worried about it. But I think you're extra, you know, aware of that there are other people listening. So you're,
Oh, I just didn't want to like not answer you when you stopped. That's all.
oh yeah, no, I like now that I know, like I'll just wait till you come back because sometimes I start talking and I forget like
But no,
where I
that's
started.
also not the point. The point was that, like, it seems that there's this an unseen observer that notices, okay, this will be the perfect time to mess with Heather. Like, this is gonna be the perfect time, and it's like, you know what I mean?
You know exactly what I mean, but you know that I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah,
Like I, that just, I mean, it's like to assume that things just happen is like assume that things just happen while in a video game. Like, and I'm not saying this is a game, but this is like a simulation of some sorts. And like, I personally don't play video games, but my son does, so I hear a lot about it. And like everything that's happening, and even in like the really complicated ones, I think he's playing. What is he playing? Lord of something. It's not Lord of the Rings. Anyway, like they're so complicated, but you know, even though the experiences feel like they're you know they're kind of authentic, but they're not. Every single thing that's happening in that game has to be programmed. There's a line of code that controls every single pixel on that's lighting up on the screen. But while you're playing the game, it feels like, oh, like this now this character came up and oh this happened. Oh, this is lucky that I came across this whatever loot or whatever the thing is. So there's like this illusion of randomness, but none of it is random. Everything is pre-planned. It's just planned in a large enough scale that you and I experience it as coincidences and random happenstances, but none of it is.
right. And I, in my talk with Mark 4 months ago, when I first started meeting everybody, after that conversation, it was kind of like my coming out interview of like, yay, now I can finally talk about this stuff because I already put it out there. um, I was sharing that through my life as an artist, I've always painted or implemented these elements that it's not until later in my life, looking back, realizing like, wow, a part of me already knew these elements were going to be in my life script, quote unquote. And so I think about like, gosh, if the data's already out there to be picked up on, um, does that really mean that I don't have any free will? And I've been thinking about that lately quite a bit.
You know what? I do think about that, right? Like the whole idea of is there predestination or do we have free will? And we have very limited free, in my opinion, we have free will, but it's very constrained by the choices we're given. You know, we have free will the way a toddler has a free will. Like I remember when Colin was little, I would be like, okay, do you want a red sippy cup or do you want a blue sippy cup? And like those were his choices. But he wasn't gonna get a glass or or he would like he would want ice cream and I would say, okay, you can have you can have this kind of fruit or you can have that kind of fruit. You decide. And like when they're little, you can trick them like that. But like now that we're old enough, we're like, well, that's not a choice. I'm not free. Like you giving me these limited choices doesn't mean that
Right.
I'm
'Cause I may
free.
choose not to eat at all.
Right.
Like, yeah.
But when you're a toddler, you were like, oh, okay, like, and it works so well on kids. Like he would throw, he's kind of, you know, stubborn like me. So as long as he believed he had a choice, I could trick him into anything. But if I tried to force him, oh, it would like that was just he wasn't gonna do it. But as long as he believed that he was making a choice, then I just had to be smart enough in how I was manipulating him. And I think that's like what's happening to us. Like we have a life script and we're given certain, we think we're having choices, but I think all our choices are ultimately limited. And this could just be like to see how we be, like how do you behave? Like what choices do you make when you faced with like this horrible reality? Do you choose to just throw up your hands? Like, what choices do you make when you go into the Hunger Games arena? Are you going to try to win, or are you going to be like Katniss Everdeen and try to cause the least amount of harm and maintain your personal values at almost any cost? I mean, she was willing to die, right? But she wasn't going to kill PETA. She just wasn't going to cross that line. So maybe like when there's this idea, people believe that this is possibly some sort of a test. Maybe that's, and I'm not saying we're living in a test, but
Right. I think about that though too. And I mean, it seems like, and it's such a touchy subject, but it seems like if it was a test, one would say, I choose not to participate in this at all. So I'm out of here.
and you're not, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I think about that too. It's like maybe, I don't know, but maybe this is like if, if I was to go back to the good place now, maybe you just, when you just don't pass the test, you just get recycled right back and start over. Maybe again, I am not saying this is a test, lest
Right.
anyone gets triggered, but like it is possible that like we're being, like, are you, is your awareness, were you able to develop, like if we were AI, right? Like, is your AI advanced enough that you can actually execute empathy? Like when I'm looking at how Chat GTP is trained, how like the AI that we know about are trained, and I'm assuming that whatever we're told the most advanced AI is, that's probably what it was 30 years ago. But the way they train them, they just kind of have them, give them scenarios, and they just have them try over and over and over and over again until they learn how to make the right choices, or like the desirable choices.
What if it's
Like
an experiment? Is that
it
different than a
could
test?
it could be an experiment. It could be like like Dark City, right? The strangers were experimenting on the humans because they were trying to figure out what was the special thing about the human souls. I mean, but ultimately, it doesn't matter because I've decided I don't care if it's an experiment. I don't care if it's a Hunger Games. I'm at this point, I don't care what the purpose is. I will be the best version of me that I can conceive of, and it's either going to be enough to get me out or it's not. Like I will, I'm trying to be as aware as I can be. I'm trying to be as ethical as I can be, not because I'm trying
Conscientious.
to, you can't, yeah, like, but not because I'm trying to like win points and like, like with God
Right.
and like, but I'm just like, I want to be the kind of being that I would want to interact with. Like I'm trying to be the kind of person that I would want to be best friends with. If that, like, that's the shortcut I have,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that I've been on that track too. Um, very much so, especially since the end of the last relationship that I was in 3 years ago. Um, after that was over, I was just like that I'm not ever going to be under this illusion that someone else is going to "save me," quote unquote. And I already knew that, but I needed a final, like, head against the wall, example that
hmm
it's my responsibility to become what it is that I seek in any aspect, and hold that centeredness every day and prove and show myself that I that I'm doing the work, taking the accountability, taking care of my animal body, being, yeah, demonstrating what I would want to see to outward, you know, just being as accountable as possible. And yeah,
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
right. Like I when I was younger, I felt like I had this void in my soul, like I needed a soulmate to make, like, what was that line from Jerry Maguire? Like, you complete me. And when I was young, I thought that was like I'm like, yes, I need somebody to complete me. And now I'm like, oh, well, this is so codependent, parasitic. Like, can you imagine expecting another person to exist just so they can fill the void inside of you? That's but I thought it was super romantic and wonderful when I was like, young. But now I'm like, I am trying to be emotionally self-sufficient, where, like, it's great to have friends. I love interacting, but I don't want to need people. I don't want anyone on the outside filling my needs. I want to be able to fill the void all on my own, and then that makes me someone that other people actually want to be around. If
Yeah, it's tricky because I've had in my life different friendships that it feels like their expectations of me are really way too high than what I could fulfill, and you know needing to talk every this amount of time, and and it's not like I always had a hard time with the friendship, because I was like an outcast of my family. I was an only child. I didn't really have a lot of experiences in my life where I was like bonded to one particular person and continuously like reciprocating energy with each other. But when I've seen examples and it just feels like, when a friend will say like, "Oh, it's been too long. You haven't reached out to me. You need to," and kind of reprimanding me for not like being a good friend enough. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like, why do you need something from me specifically? That's me like trying to fit into your role of what I've been so confused. And so that's probably why I have like very little friends.
you have so many friends, like,
I
well,
have a
I
lot
mean,
of people that I talk with. I'm not sure like how many are actually. I don't even know, like, what is the definition? I mean, you're my friend. All the people here are my friends. I mean, I don't know what is a friend? What is it? What is like, well, what happens to me is when someone comes to me and says, I need you to be different in order for me to continue. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Like I don't know, like I'm not naturally just doing and that's not enough. Do you know what I mean? Like it's confusing to me.
I know exactly what you mean, and we're conditioned to do that, to try to get other people to fill the empty spaces inside of us, instead of, so, like, as we're being raised, we're expecting other people to come in and fulfill our needs, and we get in the habit of that. I To me, like, love, right? Friendship, love, like, it should be kind of like, it shouldn't be necessary. You shouldn't need to be loved. Like, we all need, like, isn't it weird that we need to be loved, that we have this need for external validation? Like, oh,
Yeah,
what?
I don't need
Like,
that
what?
anymore.
Right? But,
Yeah,
like,
it's so
I,
liberating.
but why would, like, it's a weird, like, so you basically you need to suck energy from someone else to fill your own love bucket. And it's like, I should be able to just generate I should be able to fill up my own love bucket. And, like, if
Yeah.
my friends are around and I can connect and I can interact with them, I love it. It's like a gift, but it's not something I depend on. Like, I could be alone, or if I can be with a friend, that's like a bonus. That's like a bonus hit. But if I
Yeah,
can't, I'm not going into emotional debt because I don't have
right.
somebody. That's how I think it should be, but that's not how. it's set up like when an infant is born, it depends on its parents to fulfill all its needs, and it just learns that that's how you're okay in the world, getting other people to, the baby cries, and then hopefully the mom is attentive enough, and it comes and it fulfills its need, and it creates this bond. But it's kind of parasitic. Like, infants, I know that sounds ugly, but the mammalian relationship between the child and the parent, it starts out parasitic, and then it, evolves into something else, hopefully, but not always. So
Yeah, so it's in the design. And another thing is, like, when you were saying filling up your own love bucket, I felt like, okay, so say I die and I'm disembodied and I'm in this other realm all of a sudden because I don't have my filtering systems, my brain and my physiology. Now I'm able to perceive a different reality in a different way. And in that moment, everybody's saying, in this, in the different ways of talking about it, that there's a very short amount of time, if that's a thing, to be able um, to recognize when you might be being manipulated, whether it's like a love bomb or some sort of frequency or something that happens that, you know, makes you feel this overwhelming love and bliss, and then be submissive and easily, like, drugged to do whatever. And so I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know what, but I've been thinking, like, okay, well, I have experiences in my life where I've been by myself and in a state of meditation or whatever you call it, and feeling that for myself. So when I feel something like that, that seems quote unquote external, it's like,
mhm.
oh, well, I'm not impressed because I already know I already know that feeling for myself. It doesn't have a power over me because I already I've fulfilled that part of myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like you're able to have the feelings, but you can kind of like what I was trying to say about looking away from the screen. Like, you don't, you can have the emotions, but you just be aware that they are not you, and that yeah, they're not you. They're just, you can see them for what they are. They're like mental sensations. Yeah, I think I
Oh,
know what you.
that's reminding me of this other amazing analogy or metaphor, or however you want to say it, that you introduced in our last conversation. We were talking about the subconscious and it as a filter and it being infiltrated and skewing our perception of reality. And that part of the work, quote unquote, is using Byron Katie's
Hmm.
lingo, um, is discerning and dissecting all of these different filters, like we already talked about, but this is another way to talk about it, introduce this great metaphor that you brought up, that it's like, describe it. It's like the screen, and then there's all these keyboards.
Oh, the computer thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So like imagine your mind, your mind is a computer, like a PC tower, whatever, right? And you have and you view your experience on the monitor, and it's just one monitor, and it's one computer, like your brain and your body is the computer, and you have a keyboard, the consciousness that is you have a keyboard, so you can like give commands to the computer, and you can run programs on the computer, but you don't know that there are other beings in a different room that have wireless keyboards that also plugged into your computer, so they can, like, you think all your thoughts, you think everything that's happening is you, and you don't realize that there are other entities that have access, that have input access into your mind, and you never know when they're typing, when they're like, so you never know when the thoughts you're having, are they your thoughts or is something else typing them in? Is that what you're talking about? The
Yeah,
you know, like,
absolutely. And then I was saying, like, the process to familiarize yourself with that is to observe, like, okay, when this comes in, it's got this particular italicization or boldness, or the font is a little different. And then recognizing the patterns of the way things are said, this and that. And then kind of be like, oh, that's that one keyboard that's coming from there, and that's coming from there. And then the goal is to, like, I mean, you may not be able to um, stop the keyboard's performance or the operating, but you can recognize it, and that's a power in itself to then not be
yeah.
swayed.
And it might, you might even have to be more aware, because it's not even as easy as seeing like that it's in italicized or that it's different, because the messages all look the same, and you actually have to know the different entities well enough to know their speaking style or what they're talking about. Like, I'll have thoughts that I'm like, well, obviously I don't want to have this thought, I don't want to have this belief, so it's not me. But then I'll use like transaction analysis, or I'll use internal family systems to try to figure out, okay, so who's typing, this message into my awareness, where I'm like, when I'm feeling fear, and I know that like fear isn't, like, emotions are so make us so inefficient, whether it's fear, like, no, emotions steal your ability to think rationally. Like, they're presumably supposed to be there to make us survive, but I find that under the, like, emotions are like a drug. Like, I'm operating under the influence of emotions, I just get dumber, I make worse decisions, whether it's fear, whether it's anger, whether it's love, whatever it is. Like, so when I'm having like thoughts, and especially if there's emotion involved, I'm always like, okay, which part of, like, if you were going to use the internal family systems model, I would be, I would start questioning, like, okay, who's talking now? Like, who's having these feelings or who's having these thoughts? If they're not something that I think is useful, or if it's just a thought that I disagree with, I don't assume I'm the only person in my head.
Yeah, I think in fraternal family systems, and I can't really remember how much I've seen about transactional analysis. Um, but I really appreciate, like, I knew about internal family systems like a year or two ago, but when I started getting into like how the psyche is a filter and trying to dissect it, and the different archetypes that, like, Carl Jung speaks about, or the trickster archetype, and kind of like trying to pinpoint, is it me and my psyche that I'm saying, like, oh, it's they, or this energy is an adversarial, but it's like a part, like, okay, so what part of it is coming from my psyche, and what part of it is actually there is, like, the they or the other, like. And can you elaborate again on what transactional analysis is and internal family systems, as I think they're really integral in this process of dissecting the psyche.
So they're just different. So different psychologists over time, try to create a model or a map for how, for the architecture of our mind, because they realize that, okay, we are not one thing. Like, your mind is not like a single entity. Like, Freud called it, he had the id, ego, and the super ego. Jung had, I think he had the self and the shadow self. And, you want to integrate those things. And then internal family systems describes it in terms of, so there's like the core true self, which I call basically the spirit. Let's just, the true self is described in the terms of 8 C's, and I think it's, let me think, it's courageous, creative, calm. Oh crap! I used to remember all the eight C's, but it's okay. Anyway, it's like the chill part of it's the chill, rational, kind part of you. But then that part, so I'm talking about the internal family systems. So that part like downloads into the infant's consciousness, into the infant. But then the infant starts to create these when it doesn't get what it needs, it starts to create what's called the exiles, which are like the parts of its psyche that become injured and hurt. And those are like you would call it your inner child parts, and the parts that feel fear or anger that they get. And then those parts create the protectors, or I think they're called, there's like two types of protectors. There's the firefighters and the managers, and those are like the ego defenders. They're the ones that go on the attack. So like when something happens, you're going around in the world, and your inner child, your exile, gets notices a pattern that reminds it of some childhood trauma. That thing gets triggered, and then that in turn sends out a defender to protect the triggered inner child exile thing. And so like it's start to like the IFS um, describes how you can start taking your mind apart and seeing different parts of yourself, and you can actually negotiate with them, it's nothing in your mind is bad. This is kind of like where I would diverge from what Mike talks about, where he just thinks the subconsciousness is this evil force that needs to be overcome. Whereas in internal family systems, all these exiles and the protectors live in the subconscious, and they all were created for a reason. They're defense mechanisms, but they just, they were created by a toddler or a very young child, and now the circumstances are different, but they're still running on the old programs. And it's just, you wouldn't want a small child making decisions for the adult that you are now. But they're not bad, they're just misguided. And you sort of go in and you try to understand them and reassure them that, okay, well, I am an adult now, I am the parent now. I can take care of us. You don't need to be, you don't need to be afraid. And the protectors don't need to be going out attacking everybody around them. And that's kind of how you integrate or you become whole. So that's the IFS. And then, like the Jung, you have the integration of the shadow self, which is basically what IFS is trying to do. It's trying to find the shadow self, but it has like a more broken down version where it's not just like one shadow self. It actually like identifies different parts of the shadow self. And then the internal family, no, the transactional analysis is a little bit less touchy-feely than IFS. IFS is it requires a lot of empathy, like the ability to, like you have to be able to empathize with your inner child, your inner animal. And some people just don't have that. And for some people, it's just too feminine, it's too touchy-feely. Like I actually prefer the transactional analysis because it's a little bit more logical. And that one has like three states. It has the the child ego, the parent ego, and then the true, I think it's called the true self. And like the child ego is the internalization of like, it's both like the rebellious child, but it's both the rebellious child that gets in trouble and also the obedient child that follows instructions. And then the parent ego is the one that is both the disciplinarian, but it's also the caregiver, the nurturer. And then there's the true self that's just rational and it can kind of negotiate all the parts. But, like to really understand it and explain it, they're like multi-hour video playlists that one would need to watch to really get what I'm talking about.
Yes, um I love how organized you are and you make lists and you have access to these things that you've done for yourself and I learn from you and I have a lot of videos to catch up on these topics, IFS and transactional analysis. And thank you so much for elaborating on that for anybody that may not be familiar with those things. And just quickly, I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here with us, Sly and I. And so I'm going to go through the chat. DW says, start listening to different tones in your own head conversations. Always audit.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to speak on that?
Oh well, no, but that's yes, like it's. But in my head, it's not different tones. It's just I do statement analysis on the things that are being said in my head, and I could just tell. You can like if somebody writes a note, you sort of learn their writing style, and you can tell. Like I can tell a difference between a note that my son writes and my husband would write. It's just they just use different words and they talk about different things. So, but if they typed it, it would all look this. Like you kind of have to understand the mind behind the message because to me, in my head, it all sounds the same. There is no tone other than the emotion I'm experiencing.
Yeah, I have this interesting one that when I'm doing something that requires a ton of focus, like say I have to get from my wheelchair to the bed or the car or something, and there's like this gap in between. And since I have to use all of my arm strength and my hand strength like a gymnast to sort of hold my whole body up, like on the horse thing or whatever, and then pivot myself somehow and clear the obstacles that are in between, like the wheel or whatever, so I don't hit myself on it. And it requires so much focus and so much calm and, in those
Mm-hmm.
moments. And then it seems like I have this voice in my head that is like kind of causing trouble, or I don't know if it's trying to protect me, but it's like, you're going to fall. And I'm like, what? Why would you say that? I'm not going to fall. Don't say that.
Right? It does it sound like a or feel like a little child? Like no, 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 don't do it. You're gonna fall. You're gonna fall. It's like afraid.
There is that, and then there's another one that's not, that's more adult, and that's more like you're going to like planting it in my mind, like almost like, and then I could say like, oh, you're right. And then I just let myself fall. Like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm gonna fall. Okay. But I have to be like in that moment, no, I'm not. Please be quiet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have trolls and like we have trolls in our head.
We have
Like
trolls
this
in
is
our head.
like like just like you would get somebody in YouTube comments just making nasty comments, thinking that they're help. Like we had this, like okay, I don't want to disclose any, but like if someone says that they think they're trying to help you by toughening you up, and they're just trying to, in their head, they justify rudeness or cruelty as well. I'm just trying to toughen them up. This happens a lot to kids, especially sensitive kids. Like when people say, "Well, don't be so sensitive," and I'm just trying to, toughen you up. Like it's almost like I have a or had a voice like that. I don't have the toughen me up voice anymore. But there used to be this persona that would just like, oh, just suck it up, stop being weak, or like, oh, you just. But it was just me projecting what I heard from other people who may have had good intentions, but it was, like that attitude is not helpful. So when I hear like that, kind of like, well, you're gonna fall, I'm like, no, thank you. I assume you mean well, but this
Right.
isn't helpful. So just, GTFO.
Exactly. Yeah. And and so I know you said you're like you're not concerned with like how the mechanisms of this place work or what any unseen entities are or whatever. You're just going to get through, and if it's enough, it's enough. But like, I can't stop it, contemplating and wondering about these little um, malicious, parasitic aspects of this realm that are not within my own psyche, but that are, because like schizophrenics, is it just their, I mean, Jerry Marcinski talks about it, like people can be open in their fields, in their biofields or their energetic fields to have hitchhikers or
Mhm.
infiltrations. Like and I'm always curious about like, okay, is it a trapped soul or in this realm that's in like purgatory? It hasn't released itself completely, or is it like a little egregore, like a thought form that has sustained itself for enough time to then become, you know what I mean? Like, do you ever think about these unseen infiltrators and how that could be possible?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like not think about them because I'm being dismissive of them. I
Right.
just realize that like no matter what they are, my response is gonna be the same. Like, I'm not gonna treat them, whether it's something that's trapped accidentally or if it's malicious.
Mhm.
Like, even if it's malicious, just like narcissists here, like I realized that they were the narcissism is a trauma response. Like narcissists don't
Mhm.
choose to be narcissists; they just were made that way. Doesn't mean I'm gonna let them feed off of me, but I also don't like it doesn't like it doesn't my response is going to be the same no matter what their nature is. So like, but I get wanting, it's kind of like when I first started learning about narcissists, I was obsessed. I would just like binge watch all the material that I could find on it because I was trying to, like, all of a sudden my, like the blinders were off my eyes and I was like, oh, well, like let me find out how to defend myself. So I was trying to understand everything about every kind of narcissistic personality style. And you know how I get, I just like do deep dives. But after a while, you just realize that no, it really doesn't matter. Like what they are, what matters is what I do and how I respond. And they could be all different. Their motivations might be different, but my response is gonna be the same. Like pretty much, I'm just not
Yeah.
gonna allow to be. I'm not gonna allow them to feed off of me. It doesn't matter why they want to do it.
Right.
I'm just like I have my boundary, and I'm just not. It doesn't matter, and
Exactly.
it's another one of those rabbit holes. Like like there's so many rabbit holes here. Like I could be researching stuff forever, and it's so interesting. But I there's only so many hours in a day, and I only have so much in my empathy bucket every day where I'm just like at some point I'm like, you know what? I don't care. It's you're not me. You're trying to feed off of me. You're trying to steal my resources without my permission. It's a no. It's just a no. And according to Jefferson Fisher, no is a full sentence. And I'm totally leaning into that. And I'm just saying no.
Yeah, last night while I was sleeping, I felt this uninvited presence in my energy field and it woke me up. And I don't know if it was like something happened in my dream or whatever, but I just audibly was like, no, no, you're not allowed, whatever it was. Yeah, I guess it just doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's about, so gray rocking our way through this life's existence until we're like, God, get this stuff off of me. I'm out of
Yeah.
here.
But like, right, like when a mosquito wants to feed on you or if a leech want, like they all have different reasons. They all have babies. They all want to just survive. They're like, but it doesn't matter. Like I'm still not gonna let a mosquito feed on me if I can help it. It just like no, that's it. And and the less you interact with a narcissistic parasitic entity, Like, you don't need to justify yourself why you're saying no. It doesn't, like, no is enough. Just practice saying no and being, and that is enough. Like, you're the queen, and when the queen says no, it means no, and it doesn't need any explanation.
Right. And okay, so that's a wonderful practice to become really familiar with. And then what about how people say, like, oh, it's really important to go within and to be able to access, like, there is no getting out, it's about going within. And, but going within could be the work that's going within to dissect the subconscious and the aspects of psyche and becoming familiar with who you are without all of these filters. And then that would be the only thing that I would attach myself to if I was attached to anything, because that's like the center of my essence. So I guess my work is like going within and dissecting and becoming familiar with these narcissistic aspects from wherever they come from, manipulative aspects or controlling aspects, letting like, and not, and even it's like even emotions can be attachments, not just like physical possessions. Like my body is an attachment.
Oh,
My
absolutely, yeah.
There's so many things like this life, like I feel sometimes like I'm so attached to this life that I'm not offing myself. So is that an attachment, or am I just feeling like I have a duty to be a stewardess while I'm here and that's what I'm doing? So I go back and forth with that too.
Okay, well, I don't know what you're gonna be the one that has to, that's like a journaling exercise, deciding like
Mhm.
what are your reasons.
Yeah.
But I would say physical things are, you're not attached to the physical things, because obviously you are not physically attached to the physical things, you are emotionally attached. So when you say you're attached to physical things, you're not attached to physical things, you're attached to the emotions you have, the emotions and the beliefs you have about the physical things. So it's all about attachments or emotions.
So the
That's
emotions are like a virus, and then that's like what is being fed off too. It's like here's this emotional aspect, and then you're gonna run amok with it and get all caught up in it in all these complex ways, and then it's going to then provide food or resource or power for the system. How twisted.
it is, but I'm like, I'm not sure that I believe the delusion narrative, because it only
Okay.
came from one guy. I'm just
It
saying it
only came
came
from
from
one
one
guy.
guy.
Yeah,
And it got repeated by multiple sources,
totally.
so now it feels like it's the thing. And it was
Yeah.
in that movie, what was it called, Jupiter something rising, like they were
Okay.
harvesting. So, and the fact that it's so promoted and
Mhm.
popular
That's a
makes
red
me be
flag.
like, oh, it's probably not Lush, it's just another BS story,
Yeah.
like I don't know what it is. Like, I have no idea. But again, it doesn't, at this point, it doesn't matter what the enemy's, or the adversary's motivation is, right? When you're going, like, I like that whole Sun Tzu, how I love Sun Tzu, and he's got that
Yes.
thing about, like, if you know yourself, you're short of winning 50% of the, I'm butchering the quote, but like, if you know yourself, you have a 50% chance of winning the encounter. If you know your enemy, you have a 50% chance of winning the encounter. If you know both yourself and the enemy, you have a 100% chance of winning. If you don't know either, you're gonna lose. And so, like, you can't really know anything about this adversary, like, because everything we're experiencing here could just be a lie. I mean, it probably is. It's all an illusion. So to study the adversary isn't very efficient, given that we have limited resources. There's only
Here's the
so much.
quote coming from your, it says, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, For every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Can you explain that?
So, okay, like just put it in like normal
Yeah.
people talk.
Hmm.
So basically what it's saying is most people focus on learning about the enemy, right? Um like I have to know that, like, if you were gonna think of our situation here, like I have to learn about the prison. Like you need to learn about the, like, if we're trying to escape the prison, you need to like learn about the layout of the prison and about everything about the guards, and you need to know all the different things. And they just focus most of their energy on the prison. And then, like if you're talking about the astral, then like Mike refers to it as the prison yard, but they forget to make themselves stronger. Like they don't realize how many attachments they have. So they just keep learning about the enemy and they don't learn about themselves. So learning about the enemy, we have no idea if what we think we're learning is even true. Like the enemy lies, like that's its nature. So it's almost, I mean, we see patterns, and I but you really can't know anything. The only thing you can really learn about is yourself. So I would advocate for learning about yourself, so you have at least a 50% chance of winning, according to Sun Tzu. And then, as you're learning about yourself, you're also learning about the enemy, but focus on learning about yourself. That's where I put all my energy in.
Yeah.
If
And that's why I appreciate, all the times I get to have conversations with you, because you help me in my process of doing that as well. And I believe it's so important. Um, yes.
So, like, if you know about yourself, if you actually see all the different, like, puppet strings, like think of your emotions, your attachments, your beliefs are like little puppet strings that can be, and that's how you're being manipulated through your emotions. If you can actually be aware of every single puppet string, then you can detach from the puppet string. You can cut them, and then you cannot be controlled. You can't be manipulated. So,
Right.
like, it won't matter. You won't need to learn about the puppeteer if they don't have any
And
any way of, because you can't, like, your awareness can't be controlled. Like, you can only be manipulated through emotions or
that's
physical
the
pain. And
concept
you
of
don't.
being
Go ahead.
stoic, and not like sometimes like in the last time you commented, like, I don't want to be when I said I don't want to be stoic when I was
Mhm.
talking to DW, it was my misunderstanding of what exactly that means. But in fact, I do want to get closer to that space of not being pulled so easily or by those emotional control tactics.
Yeah, like, well, okay, great, because, but I'm not advocating, I don't think the Stoics were saying don't enjoy yourself or don't have
Right.
emotions, because sometimes it helps, like getting pissed off really helps to rally your energy,
Yeah.
or, but emotions is how the emotions is what manipulates animals. Like whether it's a human or whether it's a cat, or like emotions, and like the physical drives, it's the the evolution, the biological, it's all executed through emotions. That's like if you were a horse, the emotion is the thing on your head that's steering you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, hmm. How do you think about our conversation? It's been really good. Yeah?
I think so. We always have good conversations.
Yeah. um,
But it's been two
it's
hours. Are
been
you getting
yeah.
tired? You wanna take a
Uh,
break?
yeah, I want to take a break or wrap it up. How are you feeling?
It was a good chat, and we can always have more. But like
Yeah.
I prefer shorter videos, like when
Yeah,
it's
let's
2 hours long.
yeah,
It's better to have shorter ones where you can be like, well, this is what we talked about, and then if someone's
exactly.
interested in that particular topic, they can watch that video. To me, a 2 hours is a big commitment, even if I
Okay.
do listen to it at
Well,
time and a half or double time.
right. So here's what I'm thinking. Okay, so we've all of us that have found each other in these communities over the past few months, myself the past few months, it's only been for like 3 or 4 months that I started meeting everybody. And everybody's meeting and everybody's, sharing and encouraging and helping and puzzle pieces and everything. And some people seem like really concerned with all this new information that they're learning, and concerned that maybe they're not doing something right, or that after they leave this life that there's something to be scared about or have to be prepared for. And I feel like, because I'm like a caring type of a person, and I want to provide comfort and support wherever I can. Like, what would be like a message or something you could say that would, like, to that type of a person that has these concerns that I brought up, or something else that maybe came in your mind?
Like a reassuring message.
I mean, whatever message that's coming from you, that's just like, yeah, whatever you want to say.
Um, well, it's funny because somebody on in Jake's Discord was kind of saying like if you could give yourself advice about this, and I was like, I don't know. I guess if I could give myself advice, a younger version of myself advice about like how to navigate this, I would say focus. Don't worry so much about trying to get out into the astral, because I was for a while I was really worried that I couldn't astral, go out of body. I couldn't do any of the magic things. And I was like, how am I ever gonna, I have no idea what's happening. I'm all blind here. And then I realized that like all that stuff, like it takes a lot of energy and effort, and I just become a I would say become efficient and focus on the practices that give you the most return, because most of us don't have all day long to just be going down different rabbit holes and trying to figure out the whole puzzle. So start figuring out yourself first, and just it gaining mental health. Most people are not mentally well, but just as a like as a
Right.
design the way. So
Yeah.
working on your own mental health, like I am, Anna Rankin from Crappy Childhood Fairy. I don't know anyone who has couldn't use some crappy childhood reparenting. I like literally don't know anyone who
Right.
had, even the people who say they had a good childhood, and once you start digging, you're like, oh, okay, I see you're saying you had a good childhood, but uh, so for me, like all the conspiracy theories are, and like figuring out the controllers and all that, that's kind of like the fun stuff, like the hat
Mhm.
tinfoil hat, kind of like ooh, then you could, but like really the real work comes to like understanding why you are who you are, why you have the fear, like why are you afraid, like what, like the people who are afraid of what's going to happen, like what, how does fear work inside of you? Like, why do you have the fears you have? Why do you have attachments that you have? I would go to Anna's website, listen to a whole bunch of her stuff, try to figure out, you know, how trauma has shaped your persona, the character that you're playing. I'd use Byron Katie's stuff to do the work, to analyze the thoughts and beliefs that we have. Um, yeah, for me, psychology and philosophy is kind of that's what I'm focusing on, because that's what I can actually, I know what's true, I can analyze my psyche. I can tell if it's true or not. I have no idea what's true or not when I'm analyzing the nature of this reality. It could all just be bullshit.
Yeah, I like that. I think I think that's great advice to understand that we all, by design and programming, have this assignment if we want to like have a better time. I don't know, better time. Like I feel like I'm gaslighting. Like enjoy this enjoy this mysterious ride by doing this and this and this. Don't look
Yeah,
out the
like
window too much.
yeah, like how do you like just learn how to cope with being here? Because that's like a like look, yeah, like how do you wake up in the dream? Like don't worry about lucid dreaming. Become
Right. How do you
lucid
wake up within
in
this dream every
yeah,
day?
become lucid here now. Don't worry about lucid because the like the dreams are probably side quests anyway. Like I have
Yeah.
no idea. Like it's yeah, become lucid here now.
Mhm. What's this? Cat says, "Today at the Y, I witnessed a lady taking a shower with her clothes and shoes on." Oh, okay.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah. Um, I always like every time we wrap up a conversation, I'm like, "Oh, there's so much we could talk about forever." I really appreciate your friendship so much, Sly, and I'm so happy that you came on today to Subtle Realm Saturday for the third conversation of this series. And it just went really, really well. And I honor you, and I'm really, really grateful for your presence and everything you've shared. And I hope the doggies are okay. Um, when you go
Yeah.
back, you can give them some treats or something.
Well, Heather, I am so grateful for having you in my life to have our friendship means a lot to me, and I feel so honored that you invited me on your Saturday chats. And yeah, I'm of it. Yeah, if you want to chat more
Yeah.
privately or not, I'm here for you.
Aw, big squeeze and big squeezes to everyone in the chat, Discog, pushing buttons, Cat, DW, anyone else that is here that's not been in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. Francis, thanks for hanging out while you were here. Coming in from Ireland, that's pretty cool. Everybody's connecting. Dan was here earlier. Yeah, this is great. I'm really enjoying this everything, connecting and sharing and expressing and oh, cool. So all right.
Great.
Yeah.
So I will leave you, and everyone, thank you, friends, and have a good night.
Have a good night, Sly. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Sly Davis, everyone. Huge round of applause. Woo! Clap, 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 clap. Yes, Kat, you want to come on sometime? Absolutely. Anybody that wants to come on the Saturday chat, just send me a message or let me know, and then I'll plant it as a little seed in my mind garden for these talks, and we'll work it out. So thanks everyone for being here. And this is really, really, really fun and rewarding and valuable, I feel. And listen to the replay if you came in late, and catch everyone on the other sides and the other platforms, channels, chats everywhere. And wishing you the best for the rest of your evening and a good rest and rejuvenation in your sleep tonight. Okay, gonna end the stream in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks. Take care.